Hello and welcome. Let's talk quickly about proportions. Okay, let's see where to start. When I teach proportions, I always say whenever you see three numbers in a problem, it's probably a proportion. Okay, is that going to be the case 100% of the time? I'm sure there's some case out there where it will not be that way. But when I usually see a word problem that has three numbers inside of the word problem or the question, rather, I believe that it's going to be a proportion. So just think about that. Because what's happening is we're getting a word question, okay, with three numbers, um, and they want us to find the fourth one. And with that being said, I always, when I'm starting a proportion or starting to solve a proportion, I always write out a fraction bar, an equal sign, and a fraction bar. So I'm going to do that now. And one more here. Okay. The reason I do that is because since they're giving me three numbers, I know they're asking me to find the fourth one. And right here, there's four places. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And what I need to do is find out where to put these three numbers. And once I do that, I know they're asking me to find the fourth number. Okay. So once I've set up my fraction bar, equal sign, and fraction bar, actually, I like to put another line as well, and I'm going to call that the subject line. That's what the actual question is talking about. Okay, and I always just kind of put it out to the left here. Okay, and one here. Okay, that helps me to make sure I'm putting the numbers that are given to me in the correct spot. Okay, so as I read number one, it says Angela can ride 5 miles in 20 minutes on her bike. How many miles can she bike in 120 minutes? Okay, so what I'm going to put on the subject line, what's being talked about in this question are miles and minutes. So that's what I'm going to put on my subject line. And I see here as I'm reading this question, 5 is connected to miles. So I'm going to put it on what I call the miles line. Okay? And this 5 and 20 are connected because we're doing 5 miles in 20 minutes. So I'm going to put the 20 on the minutes line. As I go through the rest of the question, I see that this third number, 120, is in reference to minutes, so I'm going to put it on the minutes line. Okay, now I have my three numbers in the correct spot, and they're asking me what number goes here. So in order to find that, I'm going to cross multiply 5 and 20. Okay, when I do that, okay, there's no number for me to cross multiply here, so I know that's why I'm going to cross multiply 5 and 20. That gives me 600, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this 600 by the remaining number, which is 20. And that gives me 30. And that will be 30 miles. All right. Okay, so Angela can bike 30 miles in 120 minutes. All right, moving right along. Number 2 says Leslie bought an 8-pound turkey for $24. How much would she spend for a 14-pound turkey? Okay, so on my subject line, what's talking about here is pounds and price. Okay, so I see here we have 8 pounds. I'm going to put that there. And this 8-pound is connected to this turkey, which is $24. So I'm going to put the 24 right there. Okay. Now, as I continue on reading, I see that this third number represents a weight, okay, 14 pounds. All right. So, excuse me. Thanks for that subject line. I'm gonna make sure I put that on the pounds line. And this is what we're being asked for. Okay, so just like in the previous question, once we get all three numbers in the correct spot, what we're going to do is cross multiply the two numbers, okay, right here, that can form half of an X there, and 24 times 14 is 336. Okay, and so now we're going to divide by the remaining number, which is 8, and that's going to give us 42. All right, so X equals 42. All right, all that's saying is that the 14-pound turkey would cost Leslie $42. Okay, and finally, we have Robin here. She's averaging 65 miles per hour on a road trip. So the question is, how many hours will it take Robin to drive 260 miles? Now, if you'll notice closely, or remember what I was saying at the beginning of the video, when I see a question with three numbers in the question, I usually think, oh, that's a proportion. But in this case, I only have two numbers. Well, certainly looks like I only have two numbers, 65 and 260. Okay, so let me deal with those first. Let me get my subject line. Okay, I have miles and hours. Okay, so 65 is going to go on the miles line, and then my second number here is 260. It's also in reference to miles, so I'm going to put that here. Okay, all right, do you know the third number? Well, let me point it out to you. We get it right here, okay, per, okay, which means for each, okay, and so we have nothing for the hours line, and if we're doing some per hour, that tells us an hour is singular, right? So that tells us that the hidden number, I'll call it that, is 1, okay? And it says Robin averages 65 miles per hour, so that 65 and that 1 hour are connected, just like that. Sometimes you'll see a proportion and it will say, it may ask what percent, okay? And it's a hidden number. In that case, that would be out of 100, so that hidden number would be 100. But in this case, the hidden number is 1. Now we have all three numbers in the correct spot, and just as we did before, we're going to cross multiply where we can. They're looking for this, okay? And we know that anything times 1 is that number, so 260 times 1 is 260. And then just as we have always done, we're going to divide by the remaining number. And 260 divided by 65 is, let's find out. Four. Okay, so X equals 4. What it's saying is, Robin averages 65 miles per each 1 hour on a road trip. So if she drove 260 miles, that would take her 4 hours. All right, before we close out this video, I do just want to say here are the rules or the steps right up here in black. And as a quick test taking tip, when we get to word problems or word questions, I just want, word problems, I want to point out the fact that sometimes since there are a lot of sentences, we can get lost. So here's what I want you to do when you get into a word problem. Focus on the actual or the sentence that is an actual question. For example, we have a sentence here, but it's not a question. If you want to know what are they really asking, what do they really want to know, what do they want me to find, focus on the sentence that is an actual question, okay? And that, in a lot of cases, will help you out. I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you have a great evening.